Yes, dear students, these days we are discussing non-scientific methods of slide number 112. These days we are discussing methods of knowing and acquiring knowledge. Non-scientific methods of knowing and acquiring knowledge. So we have already discussed the method of tenacity, the method of intuition, and the method of authority. Today, we will discuss the rational method, rationalism. First, the definition. The rational method or rationalism seeks answers by the use of logical reasoning. Logical reasoning. Logical reasoning. It is thinking. Logical thinking. In logical reasoning, premise statements describe facts or assumptions that are presumed to be true. Premise statements, some basic statements. We take some basic statements, 2, 3, or more. They are called premises. They are called premises. Premise. One statement is premise. Two statements are premises. Describe facts or assumptions that are presumed to be true. We assume they are true. We take them as if they are true. Basic statements, which are premises. What is an argument? An argument is a set of premise statements that are logically combined to yield a conclusion. Logically combined to yield a conclusion. It is called an argument. The rational method is also called rationalism. The rational method is also called rationalism. It means finding answers by using logic. Finding answers by using logic. We start with known facts. When we use rational method, we start with known facts, which we already know, or accepted assumptions which are already accepted. Then we use logical thinking. Logical reasoning to reach a conclusion or answer a question. Here is a simple example. No, pay attention. It is an interesting example. A clinical psychologist wants to know, does a client named Amy fear the dark? A clinical psychologist wants to know, does a client named Amy fears the dark? The reasoning might look like this. All 3-year-old children are afraid of the dark. It can be one of the way to think. Reasoning might be like this. All 3-year-old children are afraid of the dark. Amy is a 3-year-old girl. Now, these are two statements. They are two premises. First premise is all 3-year-old children are afraid of the dark. We can take it as true. Then Amy is a 3-year-old girl. It is another fact, okay, known fact. So these are two statements, two premises. Therefore, Amy is afraid of the dark. This is the conclusion. Now, these two premises and this conclusion, when we combine them, it becomes an argument. The premises plus the conclusion, it means argument. In this example, the first two sentences are called premises. Premises are facts or assumptions. They are accepted as true. They are accepted as true. The final sentence is a logical conclusion. It comes from the premises. The conclusion comes from the premises. If the premises are true and the logic is correct, then the conclusion must be correct. Then the conclusion must be correct. So, answers from the rational method must follow rules of logic before they are accepted as true. Notice something important. The rational method starts after the premises are given. The rational method, thinking starts after the premises. When we have premises, then we think what can be the conclusion. Then the rational method starts. In the example, we do not check if all 3-year-olds fear the dark. We do not check, we do not test, we do not examine whether 3-year-olds are all afraid of dark. We just take it as true. We just accept that statement. We also do not prove Emmy's age. We accept that as true too. We believe that Emmy is 3 years old. The rational method does not involve observation. It does not involve observation, it does not involve collecting data. Instead, you imagine sitting quietly, thinking carefully, combining premises in your mind to see if they lead to a logical conclusion. This is how there are limitations to rational method. Even when the logic is correct, the conclusion might still be wrong. Are you getting it? Are you getting it? Even when the logic is correct, the conclusion might be wrong. The conclusion can be wrong. Conclusions are not always correct. In rational methods, sometimes conclusions can be wrong. And if a conclusion is wrong based on premises, it means the argument is wrong. The argument is wrong. Now, in politics, many times, different parties, they make arguments in their favor and against their rivals. Okay? They come up with narratives. Narratives are based on arguments. Narratives are based on arguments. Now, many times, these parties, different political parties, political leaders, political workers, their conclusion is wrong. Sometimes correct, but sometimes wrong. But since common people, they do not know how rational method works, they cannot find out whether the argument is correct or wrong. Getting the point? Now, being students of political science, you should be attentive. You should be attentive. And it will be your assignment. Today, after the classes in the evening, you will think. You will take a few arguments of your favorite leaders and parties, or a few arguments of the leaders and parties whom you don't like, and try to find out what part of their argument is incorrect, whether the premises are incorrect or the conclusion is incorrect. And in the next class, I will ask you which argument of any of our politicians or any of our political party you think is wrong, or any argument which you think according to this rational method that is correct. What are the premises, what is the conclusion, and how do you think it is correct? So it is your assignment. Got it? Next class you will share your findings. You will find out the right arguments and the wrong arguments that prevail in our political culture of Pakistan. Fine. So sometimes the conclusion of such argument is correct and sometimes it is wrong. In real life, Amy might not fear the dark. In real life, Amy might not fear the dark. Why? Because one or more premises may be false. One or more premises may be false. The first premise says all 3-year-old children fear the dark. This might be true for many children, but not for every single children. It might not be true for every single child. If the premise is not absolutely true, we cannot be sure about the conclusion. If some of the 3-year-old children are not afraid of dark, it means the premise is not correct. And if one of the premises is not correct, it also means the conclusion is also not correct. Got it? You got it? Yes. Another problem with this argument is Amy's age might be wrong. We said Amy is 3 years old, but she may not be 3 years old. She may be 2, or she may be 6 or 5. Amy's age might be wrong. If Amy is actually 4 years old, the conclusion does not work. Again, if this premise is wrong, it means the conclusion is also wrong. In general, a logical conclusion is only as good as the truth of its premises. So if the premises are true, the conclusion is likely to be true. But if the premises are not true, the conclusion will not be true. It cannot be true. If any premise is wrong, we cannot trust the conclusion. People often use the rational method when thinking through a problem before taking action. When thinking through a problem before taking action. Example, you have an exam today. You are ready to leave. Your car will not start. You begin to think logically. You could call someone, but they may arrive too late. You might miss the exam. You could take the bus, but you do not know the schedule of the buses. You are not sure you will arrive on time. You have a paper. You could ask your neighbor to borrow her car for a few hours. Here, you are not acting yet. You are thinking through options. You are not acting. You are not doing anything. You are thinking, what options can be there? How can I reach to the examination center in time? Because your car is not starting. You are weighing consequences. You are using logic. Now, here is another favorite example. This example is fully based on logical reasoning. Imagine this situation. You are standing inside one campus building. Another building is 100 yards away. It is raining very hard. You have no umbrella. You have no raincoat. Before stepping outside, you want to stay as dry as possible. You want to stay as dry as possible. आपके कपड़े ना भीग जाएं. एक बारिश हो रही है, एक बिल्डिंग से दूसरी बिल्डिंग में जाना है. You ask yourself, should I run fast or should I walk slowly? Logically, there are two ways to get wet. There are two ways to get wet. First source, rain falling from above on your head and shoulders. It will wet your clothes. Second source, rain in the air in front of you that you walk into as you move. Rain into the air. Logically, the first source depends on time. The longer you stay outside, the wetter you get. The first source depends on time. The longer you stay outside, the wetter you get. If you spend more time, you will get wetter. The second source does not depend on time. Imagine rain hanging in the air. Rain hanging in the air. As you move, your body cuts a tunnel through the rain. As you move, you are making a tunnel in the air, which has raindrops. The amount of rain in that tunnel is the same whether you run fast or walk slowly. Now we build a logical argument. The faster you move, the less rain falls on you from above. The rain you walk into is the same whether you run or walk. So total wetness comes from both sources combined. Both sources combined. Therefore, to stay as dry as possible, you should move as fast as you can. This example also shows a limitation. It also has a problem. We assumed only two sources of getting wet. We assumed only two sources of getting wet. It is a problem with this argument. But in real life, you might splash through puddles. Puddles, there are small places, shallow places where water is collected, water gathers, okay? So puddles, छोटी छोटी पुडल्स बन जाती है ना बारिश में, तो अगर उसमें से कहीं आप गिर गए किसी में, फिर भी भीग सकते हैं. तो जितना तेज भागेंगे उतना गिरने का चांस ज्यादा है. You might slip and fall. These possibilities were not included in the premises. These possibilities were not included in the premises. Because of this, the conclusion may not be correct. The conclusion may not be correct. In general, logical conclusions only apply to the situation described by the premises. If premises are incomplete, the conclusion may be inaccurate. So the premises have also to be complete. Number one, they have to be correct. Number two, they have to be complete. Number one, they have to be correct. Number two, they have to be complete. Another limitation of the rational method. People are not very good at logic. Generally, common people, they are not very good at logic. Consider this argument. All psychologists are human. Very interesting. This is the most interesting example in this chapter. Most interesting example in this chapter. All psychologists are human. We assume it is true. All psychologists are human. We all know this. All psychologists are humans. It's one premise. Therefore, some humans are women. Some humans are women. We all agree on this. We all know this. These are two premises. Therefore, some psychologists are women. Can we Draw this conclusion from these two premises. First premise is all psychologists are human. The second premise is some humans are women. Therefore, some psychologists are women. Is it a correct argument? Is it a correct argument, correct conclusion? Many people think this sounds logical. Many people think this sounds logical, but it is not logically valid. It is not logically valid. Look at the same structure. Same structure. Another argument like this. One premise is all apples are fruits. All apples are fruits. The second premise is some fruits are oranges. Some fruits are oranges. Therefore, some apples are oranges. Can we draw this conclusion from the two premises? No. Similarly, in the previous argument, we cannot draw the conclusion that some psychologists are women. Now, it is clear. Now, it is clear. The conclusion does not follow logically. The conclusion does not follow logically. This shows people often misunderstand logic. People often misunderstand logic and make mistakes using the rational method. Make mistakes using the rational method. If logic is flawed, the conclusion cannot be trusted. In summary, the rational method uses reason as a source of knowledge. Answers are not accepted blindly. Answers are not accepted blindly. But the problem with the common people, common voters and workers is they accept the arguments of their leaders and parties blindly. Do you agree with this? Do you understand this? Many voters, many people their workers and voters accept their arguments blindly. Do you agree with this?
Yes, sir.
It is a common thing in our country, in our society. From common people, you should be able to understand whether there are logical rules. The rational method does not rely on observation. It does not gather evidence. Because of this, logic is often called a way to find truth without evidence. Logic is often called a way to find truth without evidence. The rational method is very important in this scientific method. Although it is very important. Now, the empirical method, empiricism, definition. The empirical method or empiricism uses observation or direct sensory experience to obtain knowledge. To obtain knowledge. The empirical method or empiricism uses observation or direct sensory experience to obtain knowledge. The empirical method is also called empiricism. Empiricism. This method answers questions through direct observation, personal experience. Empiricism comes from a philosophical view. This view says all knowledge comes through the senses. All knowledge comes through the senses. When we observe, we use seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and smelling. These are the senses, five senses. We already know many things this way. For example, children are usually shorter than adults. Summer is usually warmer than winter. A pound of steak costs more than a pound of burger. We know these things from personal experience, from observing the world around us. Many answers are easy to get just by observing. This means we are using the empirical method. We are observing the world around us. We are experiencing it. For example, you can check your car's oil level by looking at the dipstick. Dipstick. You can find the weight of each student in a class by having everyone step on a scale. In many cases, the empirical method is simple. In many cases, the empirical method is direct, but this method also has limits. It also has limits. It has some problems. People often trust their own observations, their own experiences. We say things like, I will believe it when I see it with my own eyes. I will believe it when I see it with my own eyes. This shows how much faith we put in our senses. We put a lot of faith in our senses. However, we cannot always trust what we see. We cannot always trust what we see, or what we hear, or what we feel. People often misperceive the world. People often in your book. Anybody has got the print of the book? In your book, there is the figure 1.1, the horizontal vertical illusion, page 14. It is on your page 14 of your book. In this figure, you see the horizontal vertical illusion. Most people think the vertical line is longer. Apparently, it feels that the vertical line is longer than the horizontal line. In reality, the vertical and horizontal lines are the same. Now, if there's some problems, so you can measure and prove this yourself. Direct direct experience feels simple. Direct experience feels simple, but perception can be changed by prior knowledge, expectations, feelings, beliefs. Because of this, two people can see the same event and understand it differently. Understand it differently. The following example shows this clearly. Imagine this situation. You are given two plates of snacks. You are asked to taste both, then choose which one you prefer. One plate has regular potato chips. The second plate has crispy brown noodles. They taste very good. Based on only on taste, you strongly prefer the noodles, for example. Now imagine this, someone tells you the noodles are actually fried worms. Fried worms. कीड़े पकाए हुए थे. किसी ने ये बता दिया आपको, noodles नहीं थी. Someone tells you the noodles are actually fried worms. Ask yourself, do you still prefer them? Here is the problem. Your taste tells you they are good, but your beliefs say people do not eat worms. People do not eat worms. So your empirical experience conflicts with your long-held beliefs. Another problem can happen. You observe correctly, but interpret incorrectly. It is another problem with empirical method, empiricism. Many years, people watched the sun rise in the east. For many years, people watched the sun rise in the east and set in the west. From this, they concluded the sun moves around the earth. The sun moves around the earth. Even today, people say the sun rises. The sun rises. Even today, we say. But a more accurate statement is earth is turning toward the sun. Earth is turning toward the sun. That is why the morning is close. Morning is closer. The empirical method can also be time consuming. Sometimes it can be dangerous. When solving a problem, you can test solutions one by one using trial and error. Or you can think through solutions first using logic. Often thinking is faster and easier. Sometimes it is safer not to test things yourself. Sometimes it is safer not to test things yourself. For example, if you find mushrooms in your backyard, you know mushrooms? In your backyard, to know if they are safe yourself. They may be poisonous. Okay? So checking them by tasting, it is not safe. It can be dangerous. In summary, the empirical method uses direct observation as a source of knowledge. It requires evidence from the senses. Observations can be casual and unplanned. For example, simply being aware of the world around you, observations can also be careful, planned, systematic. That's it. So today we have completed the 5 non-scientific methods of knowing and acquiring knowledge. In the next class, we will study the scientific method. What? The scientific method.